Now, Part 97, Subpart A, 1A, recognition of and enhancement of the value of amateur service to the public as non-commercial communication service with respect to providing emergency communications. That is the first substantive sentence in Part 97. So that means us and emergency communications is what the FCC likes us to do. You can participate in one of those on-the-air programs. There are a number of on-the-air programs, and here's just the highlights. There's lots of ways to get out and operate on the air. There's even the balloons on the air, the ones that are shot down by missiles. And but I'm just going to go over the basic highlights. POTA, Parks on the Air. The website is parksontheair.com. Basically, go on their website, find a park near you or where you're traveling. If you're going to another state, you can look on their website, find a park. You make a minimum of 10 contacts, then you could submit your log and eventually qualify for all these wonderful paper things that you can print out and put on your wall. The instructions for everything are on the website. Then there's WWFF, which is Worldwide Flora and Fauna, which is the European version of Parks in the Air. And it's sort of the same thing. You go to their website, you find a park that includes American parks as well as European parks. Get in there and make contact. I will warn you one thing, Parks in the Air people and the WWF people hate each other. That's the way humans are. So like if you're going to post something on the Parks in the Air website or on their Facebook page, if you dare mention the other one or even use their numbering system, they will knock you off. So there's SOTA, which is Summits on the Air. There's the website, sota.org UK. You find the closest mountain to you on the website. This includes worldwide. There's nobody to hate each other on this one. You climb to the peak or within a certain number of feet of the peak, and you can't drive to the peak. You have to walk to the peak. You can drive to a parking lot and then hike a certain number of feet to the peak, which is what I do because I'm old. And you carry your radio with you. You have to carry all your equipment with you, including the radio and antenna. That you make 5 contacts, then you could submit your log. Again, see the website for what's going on. There's IOTA, Islands on the Air. There's the website. Go to the website, find an island near you, and yes, the islands in the lake are on our IOTA island. Make contacts, submit your log. Sounds familiar. Go make contacts, submit your log. There's 2 BOTAs, Boats on the Air. Get a boat, make contacts, submit your log. And Beaches on the Air, believe it or not. There's any number of special events that are held outdoors. One of them here in Vermont, we haven't done it for a few years, is Museum Ships on the Air. We used to do it on the Ticonderoga in Shelburne, which was outside, a lot of fun. And but they started charging us to use it. Yeah, well, going there sunk because they started charging us $1,000. They wanted to do it, so we moved somewhere else. Lesser known ones, believe it or not, there's a COTA, Castles on the Air. Like I said, minor. And also FOTA, Farms on the Air. That's that's my favorite because I started it. Basically, if you own a farm, don't drive on some random guy's farm and start broadcasting. If you own the farm and have a ham license, get on the air and start making contacts, celebrating America's farmers on the air. And I do that because I own one. And it's a lot of fun. There is a Facebook group. Just look up Farms on the Air on Facebook, you'll find it. There's no special awards given or anything. It's basically, if you've got a farm, you have a license, get on the air of the Farms in the Air. All right, here's my wonderful QSO card from Bob's Tree Farm. And that's what I give out. There's no prizes given or anything for making contact with me, but if you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, you get one of these. All right, now what? Before you start with an existing program, or just decide to go out in the woods and make contacts, what happened? Why? There you go. Nope. Go back. There you go. and make contacts, you need a plan. Why does it keep doing this?
Sorry, I keep rolling the mouse over something.
What terrain will I be in? If you're climbing a mountain, you need to pack light, which means you're going to operate QRP. I don't see anybody here operating 100 watts on a mountain peak, hiking up with all the large batteries and such. Well, if you want to, you can, but I advise not. If you're driving and parking, which is most parks and farm, you can run anything from QRP to QRO. If it fits in your car, you can do it. If it's summertime and you're in the woods, take lots of D. If you're in a desert, take a water barrel full of water with you. It's just common sense. Take care of yourself. So what kind of equipment will I need? If your transceiver is a QRP, you'll need a battery, and please take a spare battery. You'll need a power supply and a generator if you're using 100 watts up. You also need an antenna. Doesn't work without an antenna. And all the cables needed to hook up your rig, and take a few spares, because Murphy follows us everywhere we go. And again, safety, whatever you do, always let people know where you're going. It's like hiking up a mountain. Let people know where you're going ahead of time. You also need something to log your contacts, either a notebook or a laptop. And if you take a laptop to do it, take an extra battery or a connector so you can charge it from your car, like a little inverter that you plug into the power socket in your car and run your laptop off of that. You need anything else? Well, something to sit on at a table is handy. Something to write with. Nice to bring a clipboard if you're doing a handwritten log and you don't have a clipboard. Chance of poking holes in your log if you don't have a table or a clipboard. And a cheat sheet. I'll have an example of these things in the next couple slides. A cheat sheet with a park name, number, grid square, and the county you're in. Believe me, I've done this enough that people are going to ask you what county you're in, and they're going to ask you what grid square you're in. And the cheat sheet is handy because if you're by yourself, you might, and you're close to home, and it's an FN34, you're probably okay. You know you're in Chittenden and it's FN34. But if you travel to another state or go to another part of this state that has a different grid square, or you go to another state that's got different grid square and you don't know the counties, write it down. So when somebody asks you, you can easily tell them. Also, if you're going with other people, which is what I advise, they're going to want a cheat sheet. All right. And you can announce your activation on the air websites. Like Parks of the Air has a thing you click on that says spots. You have to have a login, and there's no money involved. You just, create a login. You can log in and announce where you're going, what the park number is, and when you're going to go, and what frequency you get on. If you have internet access in the park, you can then update that. Say, I'm switching to 20 meters, I'm switching to 10 meters, or whatever. So spot yourself. That way people know where you are, and you get more folks answering your it. And also you can do DX Watch and just put yourself out there on those things so people know where you are who aren't looking at the on the air site. Bring drinks, snacks, sunblocks, an HT, and a cell phone. Cell phone coverage doesn't work in a lot of places in this state, so an HT is handy. It's also handy hitting a local repeater and asking somebody, if you don't have internet access, asking somebody, some friend of yours to please spot you. So that's always handy. That is an example of a handwritten log. It comes off the ARRL website, and you just print out those, put them on a clipboard, and there you go. You can manually write them down if you don't want to bring a laptop. If you're climbing up a mountain, this is good. It's lightweight. Here's an example of a cheat sheet. This is from one of the parks we were on. Here's our spell it out phonetically. Here's our park. Here's our call sign, and it parks on the air. When somebody answers you, you're 5'9" at the Green River Reservoir State Park and the park number. And again, notice down at the bottom, I give that extra information in case people ask for it. And trust me, they're going to ask for it. Okay, if you use a computer logging program, be sure to have a cheat sheet on how to log a contact. Now, I'm not going to go into the different um, uh, logging programs. That's a whole nother talk. But I use N3FJP, and I use it because it's you can move data elements around and make it look like whatever you want. You can also add new data elements in. Parts of the air people have things like my sig info means the other part when you're doing a part to part. So you can add those elements in. That's why I use that. Use what you're comfortable with, but always have a cheat sheet for somebody who's not you, who sits down to make contacts. They'll have a checklist of exactly what to do. Kind of simple. You know, call sign, type in the call sign, press tab, the state, press tab. If it is a part to part, you got to do the other guy's part, and then it just logs it. So it's always handy to have these cheat sheets. All right. I have operated QRP. That's my little KX3 down there, and a homemade lithium ion battery pack, which will last me pretty much most of the day. And I do have a spare one. I always bring it with me. And I have operated QRO. There's my Elecraft station, 500 watts. Okay, specifics. All right, here's what I take with me when I'm going on QRP. And you notice I got lots of stuff there. Obviously I've got the KX3, and I've got 2 battery packs, and I've got the coax cable to go with it. I also have the attachment so I can attach a headset to it. I also have an AC power supply in case I bring, I've got access to mains or I bring a generator. I've also got, I can connect my KX3 to my laptop. I've got all the cables and a few spares, and it all fits in a little pack, which will in turn fit inside my backpack. Here's my QRO setup. It was raining that day, so I set it up in the vehicle. But, laptop, K3, KPA 500, and the tuner below it. And here's the QRO carrying case. Now, the KPA 500 is a transformer, and it's 30 pounds. And when you pack it full of all the stuff you need, it's kind of heavy. So I use a DeWalt tool chest that's on wheels. It's on wheels, guys. So when I have to, the only lifting I have to do is lift it out of the car and into the car. But when I get there and to the car, I can wheel it where I want to go. Trust me, if you're going to do this, it's worth it to have a wheeled carrying case. And if you notice, the carrying case has the transceiver, the amplifier, and the tuner. And underneath, you can kind of see there's two headsets, and several bags full of all the cables I need to connect everything. And I've got a bag of adapters, 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch, coax barrel connect. I've got any connector you could possibly think of, I've got in there. I have a foot switch. I have 2 foot switches in there. Like I said, Murphy follows me everywhere I go, so I try to have everything. If you notice the ground straps, I don't ground it I don't jam a ground strap, a ground stay, but I do bond everything together. It helps a lot. And here's my generator, a Honda. It weighs 55 pounds. Again, a lot of the parks on the air that our club does, there's 3 of us that consistently go out on the parks in the air, and we all do 500 watts, and we all run off the generator. Again, if you're doing that, as long as it fits in the car, you can take it. Because if you get to a park, you find a park bench and you're not that far away you park not that far away from it, or you just park in the parking lot and go off and where you've got trees to set your dipole up, set a table down and just start operating. And so having 50 feet of extension cord hooked to the generator, I can run the K3, the amplifier, and a power supply that powers the transceiver and the tuner. And I also charge my cell phone. And during the summer, it'll run a small fan. So it's enough power to run all of that. All right, now you got that set. What about the antenna? Well, let's start with a QRP to 100 watts first. Choices are, you got a vertical. Well, that's like a buddy pole or equivalent. There's lots of those multi-tapped coils on a vertical stick out there. Buddy pole's the most common one. There's a ham stick. And sometimes when I'm on vacation, I've got a 100-watt rig in my car and I'll use ham stick. Change bands, you got to change ham sticks. The MFJ telescoping whips, they've got a 17-foot one, which is quarter wave on 20 meters. You want to go to 15 and 10, you just shorten it. And it works great. Also, wire vertical using a telescoping mast or a tree. That works too. All of these require radio. Granted, you could probably receive signals and transmit signals, but nobody's going to hear you, and you're not going to hear a lot of people. So use radio. The other, number two, a dipole, simple wire dipole, multi-band or single band. And when I go on an activation, I bring both. Ham stick dipole. MFJ makes a little doohickey. You can stick two 20-meter ham sticks, and it goes to a coax. You can stick it on a telescoping rod and on a tripod, and it's a rotatable dipole. They even make one that'll take 8 ham sticks, so you can have 4 bands. Rotatable dipole. Okay, inverted V. You can hang it from a branch, or you can use it on a telescoping scope. And then there's end-fed. Again, hang it from a tree or a pole. On the end-fed and on a multi-band antenna, you kind of need to have a balun, or it isn't going to work. Okay, a mag loop. They're easy to set. It's the easiest thing to set up, but it's 1.5 to 2S units below a typical dipole. So it's a compromised antenna. But let me repeat, real easy to set up, and it's best used for 100 watts or less. Here's an example of a telescoping pole. Soda Beam sells them $80, and it's 20 feet high, and it goes down to 22.1. It's got a little ring on the top, so you can attach the wire to it and just do an end fed, or you can have the center there and have an inverted V, or you can have 2 of them if you want, and have a regular dipole. And there's an example of telescoping mast. Now, it'll carry more weight. You can put something a little heavier on it. And you see this one is 33 feet high. Heavier to carry. I wouldn't advise taking it on a soda up a mountain. The other one, the fiberglass pole, is a lot better for mountains. There aren't trees on top of most mountains, so you're going to have to take one of those if you want a dipole or an end fed. But again, that's a little more expensive, but like I said, it takes more weight and it's higher. If you use any vertical antenna, you should bring 2 6-wire radials for best performance. Don't just run it without any radio. If you're using a multi-band dipole or an end fed, an end tuner is kind of a must. It may be resonant on 1 band or 2 bands, but once you get into other bands, it won't be. The 3-to-1 tuner in most transceivers is adequate for some of the bands on a multi-band, but not all of them. It's better to use a wide range tuner, and there's an example. The first one, the LDG Z100, is an auto tuner, and the MFJ 921 is a manual tuner, whatever you like. No matter which antenna you use, be sure to bring enough coax to connect the antenna to your transceiver or amp. Also, please connect it to the antenna before you pull it up. Not saying I've never done that before, but here's an example of enough coax. This is what I bring. One reel is 77 feet, the other is 110 feet. Believe it or not, on one of the parks, this is Camp Plymouth, we got our antenna up over 100 feet. because that 110 foot spool made it to the ground. I had to put an extension on to get it to the amplifier. This is the storage reel. Let's see, they're sold at Lowe's and Home Depot. They're like 13.5 bucks. I use that for the extension cord. I use it for coax, and my multiband is, you'll see later, is a Cobra ultralight, and it's got ladder line, and I use it to wind up the ladder line. It's got 80 feet of ladder line. I use that to wind up the ladder line. Makes it much easier to store and deploy if you've got that roll-up spool. If you're going to do this kind of stuff, I'd advise that. All right, QRO antenna. We did the 100-watt QRP antennas. There are 4 choices. I don't have a mag loop on this because, number one, it's very expensive. They do make one that'll take a kilowatt, but it's very expensive, and it's got that 2 S unit deficit, and you have to you're running up to a kilowatt out of it, and RF safety means you got to push it way the hell away from you. So its utility and being easy to set up kind of diminished. So the 4 choices are vertical. They're the same as QRP, but most ham sticks are out. They kind of tap out at 300 watts. I think Shark sells one that goes to 500 watts, but for the most part, ham sticks are out. Dipoles, best to use, but they got to be rated 500. Most of them are rated 1500. Don't have to worry about it. And like I said, I use a Cobra ultralight, and my Ballon is rated 4 kilowatts. I don't want it to spark. End feds, again, 500 watts, including the Ballon, and a hex beam. Buddy Pole actually makes a hex beam, a portable hex beam. But if you buy it, it's kind of pricey, but they actually do have it. It's a portable hex beam. That's a gain antenna. And again, I'm sure lots of you have seen it. If you got a big truck and a trailer behind it, you could bring a push-up tower, a crank-up tower, and a big old Yagi with you if you want. And you can run 5 watts and work Europe all day. But if you want. And here's my QRO antenna, the Cobra ultralight. You see I wrapped the ladder line up in that spool. And here's a, kind of hard to see, but the center is there. That's just a single bit dipole and a coaxial down. How much hassle is all this antenna stuff? Well, verticals are easy, because just follow the instructions that came with the vertical. And you lay out the radials. If the antenna is, let's say, over 10 feet, you're going to want, or you're going to want to guy it. So you got to put little red flags in the guys, because if you're in the middle of the park, you don't want people clotheslining themselves with it. Attach the coax and start transmitting. Dipoles. For a simple dipole, you need a paracord pull on each end. We're talking about the standard dipole. You need a pull at each end. If you're using 2 telescoping bulb poles, it's kind of self-explanatory. You're limited to how heavy they can be, but you just basically raise it up and tighten it, and then you're going. Be sure and attach the coax before you pull your antenna up. I can't repeat that enough. But if you're going to use trees, then you need to shoot 2 trees to get your dipole up. There's 3 basic ways to do it. Shoot a bow and arrow. And I guarantee you, people will give you strange looks if you're in a park and try to shoot an arrow up a tree. And the park rangers probably going to go over and throw you out. You could use a slingshot. It's a little more stealth than a bow and arrow. Or you could use a tennis ball launcher, and that's what I use. Now, the advantage of the tennis ball launcher is you can get it higher, and it won't get hung up on the tree on the way down, because an arrow doesn't weigh that much, and the weight you're going to use in the slingshot is not going to be that heavy, so it tends to get caught in the canopy on the way down. The tennis balls that I shoot have, I weigh them down with BBs, and the average tennis ball I use is half a pound, 8 ounces. And that's over much experimentation. That's the weight that gets you consistently through the canopy of a tree and down to the ground. So what you're going to do is you shoot a wire, you shoot a weight attached to a reel with fishing line over top of the tree. It goes down. You take the ball off, you attach the paracord to the thing, and then you pull it back over, attach it to one end of the antenna, go to the other tree, do the same, and then pull it up. Attaching the coax first. Okay. That is a tennis ball launcher. And let's see if you can, no, I can't do it. Down here is the pressure, and use just a regular 12-volt tire inflator pump, cheap one you can get at a auto parts store. I think I paid $9 for mine. And you pump it up to about 50 pounds. This is a small model, so I have to have higher pressure. In the larger models, you're dealing with 30 pounds. Mine I do 50 pounds. And this is a release valve, and that sets off the release valve. When you set it off, all this pressure flows through here, and you attach the ball to the reel down to the bottom, and then shoot the ball out. And with about 50 to 60 pounds, this thing will do 120 feet with an 8-ounce ball in it. And this is the case. If you notice, you need paracord to attach to the string, pull back over the tree. If there's 5 of these reels of paracord, it's got a 100-pound head. And I've also got spare balls. I've got the equipment and BBs to make new balls in case I lose them. And everything, all extras. I also have in there a compass, because if I want to go north-south, I want to be sure I'm going north-south, so I actually have a compass in there. But again, this is the kind of stuff you're going to bring if you're going to drive to your outdoor activation. All right, here's a shot. We actually got a shot of a ball being shot. This little yellow streak is the ball going up. And that's when compressed air decompresses, just like it turns into vapor. So that's what you see. It looks like a gun shooting, but it's not. But you certainly don't want to be not looking up when it's coming down on the other side of the tree. Because it's an 8-ounce tennis ball coming at you. Okay, your antenna's up, transceiver's on. Now what do? Unless you're a hermit or no one ever wants to go anywhere with you, operating a remote is more fun with friends or family. It is. And our club, the Ramsey Club, does it as a club, and there's at least a minimum of 2 or 3 of us there, sometimes up to 6 or 7. And it's fun. It's kind of like a mini field day. Setting up and tearing down and operating several hours is easier with help because somebody's there to spell you. If you're sitting there working, if you're running 500 watts and propagation is good, it's going to be a pileup. The pileups are going to last a long time. And I'm not a contester, so that wears me out. So after about an hour of that, I need to get up. So if there's somebody to spell me, that's great. So I advise doing it as a group. It's a lot of fun. And let's see. The most important thing, please pay attention to RF safety. If you're running 5 watts, antenna location isn't that important. However, if you're running 100 watts, make sure the antenna is 4 feet away. That's for a 50% duty cycle. And if you're running 500 watts, that's 9 feet away. So again, I'll go back to the mag loops. If you've got a dipole 50 feet up, don't worry about it. If you got an end fed 20, 30 feet away from you, don't worry. But you got to keep RF safety in mind when you're doing this. Also, keep in mind, if you're in a park, there's a lot of people wandering around. If you're going to go to a park, tell the ranger at the gate what you're doing. Sometimes they'll get on the air with you. That's what's happened to us. And she made a bunch of contacts. But I started the Vermont Parks of the Air program in 2017. I went to the parks, I forget which division it's under, but the Parks Department for Vermont and worked out an agreement with them to do it. And they were supposed to tell all the rangers in all their parks that we were going to come. And the rangers never knew about it, but they were always fine with it. Even running a generator. There's just one instance where we couldn't, and there's several instances where they let us plug into the main. So that was even better. If you're in a park, grab a table. If it's raining, try to grab a shelter. Or bring your own tent. Remember, whether you run 5 watts, 100 watts, 500 watts, the requirements are all the same. You need power, either a battery or a generator, access to mains. You need a transceiver and all cables necessary, plus spares. You need an antenna. You need coax. You need the log, handwritten or laptop. You need someplace to sit, rest your equipment, and depending on weather, you need shelter. In addition to working on and enjoying your radio skills, you'll also have a chance to see beautiful scenery in your own state, as well as anywhere you travel. Shots from parks around the state. Randy is activated, I'd say around half, maybe a little more of the states, and we're working toward activating all of the states, all of the parks in the state. So, don't stay in your basement, get out there in nature with your radio and have fun. And I'll take questions now, and after I've got a short video that shows 2 SOTA operations, 3 POTA operations, and 1 tree farms on the air operation. So, question.
For my younger days, I would say, we played on concrete. If I would touch the strings on my guitar and touch the amplifier, I would get a circuit going through me. And I'm just wondering if you're running, say, 500 watts on the earth, on the ground, is there like any, like if I touch the microphone, I get a shock?
Okay, the question about getting our basically RF feedback or RF into other things. We've never run into that because, as I said before, I bond everything. I bond the transceiver, amplifier. They've got a ground lug on every piece of radio equipment. You just simply have a flat braid going from piece to piece to piece. You bond everything together, and we have never had that kind of getting an RF zap out of anything. And theoretically, you could, and I do bring with me I think it's a number 2 copper wire, which is like basically a copper stick that if you can stick down to the ground, and I can attach it to one of the pieces of equipment, which is bonded to all the others, if I want to ground it. But that doesn't go that far on the ground, and it's not that good of a ground thing. Bonding it makes the most difference because you're operating remote. I mean, at home, I've got 6-foot ground rods. I got 4 of them, and I'm also grounded to the AC ground. Like the water pipe ground, and so that's different. But when you're out in the field, you're not going to do that. But you really should bond every piece of equipment, including the tuner and the power supply. When I say every bit of equipment, I mean every bit of equipment. Just bond it all together, and generally don't have that problem. More questions? Yes, sir. Okay, hang on a second. Let me get back to it. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Where's it? That was a telescoping pole. That's a pole. That's a pole, not an antenna. Yeah. That's just a fiberglass pole that you can attach a wire to and do a vertical wire antenna. Or you could use it for an inverted V. Yeah, the V. I didn't bring a picture of a vertical antenna. So, more questions if you have any?
So, have you ever had like over curious onlookers or dogs or
Actually, no. We tend to, the only thing that people are possibly going to trip over, we use dipoles. We shoot dipoles in the tree. So there's coax coming down or there's ladder line coming down. And we generally try to position, I bring a table with me. We generally try to position the table under where that's coming down. So it's just straight down. And the thing that people might trip over is the power cord coming from the generator. So I have a bright yellow power cord, and people generally haven't tripped over. They can see it. And we have had people stop and ask us what you're doing. But I'll be honest with you, more people pester us with questions when we're using the tennis ball launcher to put the antennas in the tree. Well, that's cool. How's it work? That's really good. Yeah. Much more questions about that than the actual radio operation. But yes, we do have people to stop and ask. And that's why it's handy to have more than one person there. Because if we're doing, when Ranvi does their activations, they have 2 500-watt stations and 3 operators. So there's one person that can spell at all times. And there's also one person that can answer questions, because I'm dead serious. If propagation's good and you're on 20 meters after the park's open at 10, takes us about 11:30 to set everything up. And that's good time to make a lot of contact. And we've spotted ourselves, so it's basically a constant pileup. So having that extra person to answer the questions is a good deal. More questions? Yes, sir.
Are you planning activation?
We have not planned on it. I'm sorry, we're not coming to Canada yet. You're welcome to join us down here.
If you organize.
Probably. We do it under your call sign, but probably, yeah.
And they can accept the pilot.
Yeah, we went through the whole option of, do we do 100 watts QRP or 500 watts when we go to a park? And this was during the depths of the solar cycle. And we just said, oh, to heck with it. 500 watts will work just fine. So that's why we basically do the 500 watts. And it's worked out well because people can hear us. I do, when I'm sitting in my 10 minutes ago. All right, when I'm sitting in my basement, running 500 watts, I can hardly hear these QRP stations and even barely hear the 100-watt station. So it's fairer to the chasers. All right.
This enjoying is absolutely
There you go.
fantastic.
This is Mount Washington. It's the only day ever that's been 70 degrees, no wind, and sunny. How's that for Mount Washington?
CQ soda.
I think there's a few reasons, below zero reasons.
CQ soda.
But yeah, and this, obviously this is QRP because we could drive up to the park and then
Bravo 1 whiskey X-ray Mike.
hike down on the rock.
Washington, New Hampshire, listening.
No, we did not take the train. We drove up. Paid the money and drove up. All of us in one car to be cheap. Here's Mount Mansfield. And the sound isn't going. I don't know why the sound isn't going, but it isn't. Let me see if this helps. Yeah, that helps. But again, that's typically what you find on the mountain. Just a couple hours.
Memorial State Park, Kilo Fox, 3149 in Vermont. Roger, Roger. You are 5-5 into Burlington.
This is basing our tip.
Oh, Roger, we're right next to Burlington, Vermont, believe it or not. Thanks for the contact. And QRZ, Whiskey 1, November, Victor Tango.
Use the club call.
Kilo Mike 4, Kilo Zulu Victor. America Bravo.
Kilo Mike 4, Kilo Zulu Victor. Yeah, you dropped out before. I don't know what happened, but anyway, you're a 5'9", Underhill State Park, Kilo Fox, 3149.
You notice we set up our park table, which is, go to park is going to be the.
Oh, thank you for
it's
Virginia.
set-
Maybe we'll
set
get
up. Right.
Thanks for the contact, Frank. And QRZ, Whiskey 1, November, Victor Tango, Vermont. State Parks on the air.
Pile up.
Okay, the zero station, the
Sort of
zero
the way-
station only. Okay, the zero station, is there a zero station out there? Whiskey 0, Tango, you are 5'9" in Underhill State Park. That's Kilo Fox,
The Underhill's kind of tough. It's
3149.
right by a mountain. The other thing, on a lot of parks they put in
Okay, thanks for
pound.
Minnesota. And
That gives you a
QRZ,
lot of
Whiskey 1,
snack.
November, Victor Tango,
lot of
Vermont.
QR.
Parks on the air. Okay, the two station. Okay, Kilo Charlie 2 only, please. Okay, Kilo Charlie 2, Tango, Echo, Lima, you are 5'9" in Underhill State Park, Kilo Fox, 3149.
There's
Okay, what's after the zero?
the operates.
Okay, K0 Lima Alpha Fox, you're 5'9" KFF 3150 in Vermont. Thank you. Whiskey 1, November, Victor Tango.
Yes, he's got an old E kit.
Delta Hotel Bravo.
200 or 220. Yes.
Okay, Echo Alpha 1, Delta Hotel Bravo, you're 5'9" KFF 3150 in
Yes.
Vermont.
He hooked his K3 to that old.
44, Whiskey 1, November, Victor
And
Tango.
you should hear the generator.
4QU,
The talk, push the talk button.
November 4 Queen Uniform, 5'9" KFF 3150 in Vermont.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks, 7-3, Whiskey 1, November, Victor Tango. November 2, November Yankee Radio, 5'9" KFF 3150 in Vermont. Four Tango Sierra.
This is Kilo Echo 4, Tango Sierra, Jim in Murphy, North Carolina. You're 10 over 9, 10 over 9.
KK4TS, you're 5'9", K5564 Vermont.
500
Thanks.
watts.
Whiskey 1, November, Victor Tango. Kilo Echo 8.
Kilo Echo 8, Kilo Zulu, India.
K8KZI, you're 5'9", K5564 Vermont.
Kilo Zulu, India, has you 5'9".
What's the state?
Ohio, Oscar Hotel.
Thanks. Whiskey 1, November, Victor Tango. Kilo 8 Hotel Quebec, you're 5'9", K5564 Vermont.
You notice, pilot.
Thank you. Whiskey 1, November, Victor Tango. Kilo 7, Sierra Echo November, you're 5'9", K5564 Vermont. 7-3, thanks. Whiskey 1, November, Victor Tango.
Kilo November 4, Whiskey November Oscar.
Kilo November 4, Whiskey November Oscar, you're 5'9", K5564 Vermont.
Yeah, you're 5'9" in Whiteville, Kentucky there, QSL.
QSL, thanks. Whiskey 1, November, Victor Tango. Again,
That background noise.
Whiskey 1, November, Victor Tango.
Real right next to it.
Kilo 1 Bravo, India Fox. Kilo 1 Bravo, India Fox.
Whiskey 8, Whiskey Yankee, you're 5 and 9 from Bob's Tree Farm in
This
Essex,
is the
Vermont.
Roger, thank you. You're 5'9" Ohio.
Thanks, 7-3, QRZ, Kilo 1 Bravo, India Fox, Farms on the air. K5KUY, you're 5'9" from Bob's Tree Farm in Essex, Vermont. K5KUY, you're 5'9".
K5KUI, you're 5'9" Texas, over.
Very good, Texas. Thanks, and 7-3. QRZ, Farms on the Air, Kilo 1 Bravo, India Fox.
Using my.
November 8, Charlie Whiskey Uniform, you're 5'9" from Bob's Tree Farm in Essex, Vermont. Okay, thanks, 7-3. QRZ, Kilo 1 Bravo, India Fox.
CQ, Farms on the Air.
Kilo 1, Bravo India Foxtrot.
That's me and my QRP
Kilo
rate.
1, Bravo India Fox.
Kilo 1, Bravo India Fox. Bob, we have you 5'5" in the park.
I was.
Roger, you're 5'9", you're in Vermont. What's your park number?
Park 1577 and Park 4567.
I got a multi-band. And it's permanently
Yourself,
up.
thanks for the
I've
contact,
got lots of
and
trees
have
on the
good
tree
luck.
farm. It's permanently up. About 60 feet up. Well, every spring, if it's not permanently up, it gets permanently up. Notice the little blue box over there. It's the
Kilo 1, Bravo India
look at
Fox.
my back. 18650. 4.
Roger. If I get your call sign right, Alpha Bravo 0 Sierra Golf, is that correct?
Use a bug converter to get it down to 13.8 volts. So
QSL, got it. AB2.
I can run an underwater rig for
Yeah,
about
my name
an
is
hour.
Bob, and I'm in Vermont, and I'm in the middle of a forest running QRP. Thanks a lot for the contact, and have fun.
X3. Okay, that was it.